So welcome to today's Simply Happy podcast. I have with me Susie, who is an ADHD coach, and she's also from Lilo Wellness. So welcome, Susie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh no, it's so lovely to have you and sharing your wisdom that you have around wellness and stress management.
It's a real pleasure to be here.
So tell me about yourself, things that you like to do in your spare time.
All right. So maybe a little bit of context will help with this one. So definitely. I am a solo parent. So I had my son on my own. So I don't have a lot of spare time, but it's about making our time, I guess, together work for both of us. So I bought a scooter recently and I'm absolutely loving scooting with him because, I don't know, walking around the neighborhood can get a bit boring as a way of exercising. And yeah, so it's the idea is I was feeling really unmotivated, and as somebody with ADHD, it's good to mix it up every now and then. I find that my exercise, I go in and out of cycles and novelty is helpful. So yeah, that's my latest hobby and I am loving it, and it serves to be exercise as well.
I love it. We bought one last year as well, like an adult one. So we've got the kids have both got one, and we've got one adult one that we share and take it in turns. There's only been a couple of times where it's like one person, like that my husband or I haven't been going with the children, but generally we get away with it. And I also use mine with my clients as well, so the little kids. So when I go somewhere like,
cool.
You've got your own scooter, I'm like, yeah, of course I have. Some of them now they know, so they just go, and we're going to go for a scoot first before we do any of our speech or OT work. Yes, we will go for a scoot. So yeah,
it's very regulating actually. So it's a good one. It was something that was always recommended. So my son is autistic as well. So, and that was something that the OT during assessment said scooting is regulating. So yeah, we do a lot of it.
I do find that kids really, gravitate to that. Once they know the skill, even our daughter, she'll scoot in our driveway and she'll do circles, and then my son will take over. And I feel like there's a little path out there on our driveway just from scooting circles. So tell us about the business then. Tell us about and how you got into coaching, like ADHD coaching, because you've got a background. I'll let you talk about it though.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so I was teaching stress management and mindfulness, and I still do. So I have 3 services, but ADHD coaching is definitely the biggest priority right now because there seems to be a real need. It's a lot of people, a lot of adults are getting diagnosed later. So yes, I was teaching stress management and mindfulness because I had terrible mental health myself for a very, very long time. So depression and anxiety, as many people who have ADHD undiagnosed have, for probably 25 years. And I was very fortunate though that eventually I did get around to learning properly and really incorporating meditation and mindfulness into my life, and I did yoga teacher training, and it was literally as if a switch was flicked when I had done enough practice and really got it. So in my brain I understood it intellectually, but also in my being, and it changed everything. So I decided then and there I wanted to teach other people about these skills, because it seemed to me that I had not been explained this stuff in a way that resonated with me or that made sense to me. So I was working in workplaces primarily, and then as I got my own diagnosis and also my son's diagnosis, I expanded to provide parent education and support for parents of kids with disabilities, because there's such a massive chunk in there that is around stress management, and mindfulness can be so incredibly helpful in that setting. But also because I actually have a background in nursing, so I was a pediatric nurse for a long time as well, and I have a master's of public health. So I'm very au fait with navigating the health system and systems in general, and the NDIS has been, I think, easier for us than for many because of my background as well. And so, yeah, just combined a lot of those skills. So And then, of course, as you've mentioned, my own diagnosis, it really wasn't much of a shift. I did some training around ADHD specifically, and obviously I wanted to know everything there was to know for myself. My son's since been diagnosed as well, and so yeah, that's sort of how it came about. And I also worked as a health coach for many years, full time in a big health insurance company. So the coaching process was something that I was really familiar as well. So that's how it all came about. But ADHD coaching is certainly probably the thing I'm most passionate about right now, because, and particularly when it comes to women, because I just really want to inspire and educate women so that they understand that if you understand your condition and yourself, you absolutely can have a good life with ADHD. And I think there's a lot of people out there who feel like that's not possible. So that's why I'm really passionate about that at this point in time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And working with a lot of clients myself with ADHD, I see that they sort of feel disheartened, that they're trying to, rather than always looking for ways to fit in, it's like actually to use your strengths. I see them as strengths. They have some of the most amazing strengths.
Correct.
You know, to be able to come up with so many ideas and really, really, for me, the people I've been working with, really great at sourcing all the information, the knowledge. They're just such, love the source of knowledge that they go out and find, which is fantastic. So,
and creative problem solving, absolutely.
Yes, creative, so creative.
But if you don't have, I guess it's the thing about coaching, as you know, is it's a facilitation process, and we can all benefit from it. And so we draw out from them the solutions that will fit with their life. And that's different for everyone. But we have a lot of wisdom, but it's impossible to do for ourselves, right? And also just a lot of what I do is just hold up a mirror and shine a light on the fact that you are a good person and that this is not your fault. And there is a huge amount of positives, and we can help you design a life that plays to your strengths and that minimizes how much your challenges impact you. And from there, you can absolutely have a really good life. So.
Yeah, and just really boost their confidence and motivation around everything as well. I'm sure that has that flow-on effect. Yeah. So tell us. Oh, sorry.
No, not at all. And I guess share with them that it has not been easy for me, and it's still not easy. That just because you have a lot of challenges, that does not mean that you can't experience a lot of joy and, God forbid, even ease in your life, right? Yeah. So it's possible, and they can experience it too. So
yeah, I'm sure you'd be really inspiring to be able to work with as a person, and just know that you understand their situation, which makes a big difference too. So then tell us, what are your tips for yourself around stress management? What do you use for yourself?
So stress management, well, meditation and mindfulness is like critical. As I said, it was completely life-changing. And I have heard a neuropsych in the training that I did actually say, if you want to have a good life for somebody with ADHD is an aware life. So we are starting behind the eight ball so much with being able to manage our attention. And effectively, mindfulness training is attention training, but it's also, very much self-knowledge and self-awareness. So those two things are so critical. So I think that would be the main thing. But then on a sort of more practical level, I think some of the main principles that I really work with others and that I apply in my own life, and I'll give you an example, is delegating and paying people to do things for you wherever you can if they're not your strengths, because when you're doing things that are not your strength, you are stressed. It's stressful. There are some tips that I can give as well in terms of how to lessen that stress and breaking it down into smaller pieces. playing nice music that is uplifting and soothing while you're doing something that's stressful, you know, a few things like that. But delegating and also using body doubles. So just a very quick example, a lot of people with ADHD really struggle with their finances. It has not been an area of strength for me. I'm getting there now, and the business is really going really well now. But I've organised for my godmother's husband, who's a numbers person, to catch up once every couple of months and go through my spending. And I've seen a financial coach, and we've set everything up so that I've got the right accounts happening and the right spreadsheet happening. And then I'm going to meet with somebody else to create that accountability. And I can lead it. I'm capable of it. I just cannot focus on it or get around to it.
Yeah.
And so by creating that body double and somebody who is better at this stuff than me, and we go around there, you know, once every couple of months, and I'll just spend half an hour and do it then, right? Yeah. So body doubles, delegating, paying somebody for the stuff that you find really hard is huge.
Yeah. And that's, you're speaking exactly what I do with some people. I'm like their body double. They're helping them with organising and setting up systems for their home and managing, you know, their pantry and their washing and everything else in their home that they struggle with. Yeah. So maybe just go back a little step though. Can you explain like some of the difficulties that someone with ADHD really struggles with? Just for people who maybe are like, oh, have never even experienced, you know, they've maybe seen it from a distance, but they don't understand. That's all.
Yeah. And it's sort of, it's such a weird and wonderful like array of difficulties, and it's different for everybody, but there's sort of some general similarities. A lot of people think that the name attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder is incorrect or not as accurate as it could be for a lot of people. So another way of looking at it is attention regulation and emotion regulation disorder. So we have difficulty managing our emotions. We feel emotions, they come on very strongly. It's harder for them to settle for most people. It varies and it depends on the situation. Excuse my reminder going off then. And we have difficulty regulating our attention. So our attention, we may absolutely be really good at paying attention and doing something with it. Some people refer to it as hyper focus. So we get right into focusing on things that really interest us, but to the exclusion of other things that we perhaps need to be aware of in that moment as well. Or if it's something that doesn't interest us, it's almost impossible to focus on it long enough to do something. And I mean, I love, there's a great YouTube channel called How to ADHD by a wonderful woman by the name of Jessica McCabe. And she did a TED talk and about her experience of having ADHD as an adult. And she says that trying to focus on something is that it doesn't interest you. It actually changes your brain chemistry, right? So it's like trying to nail jelly to a wall. And that is literally what it's like. And it's so frustrating. So if you're busy, it just gets bumped down the list. You never get around to those things. And then when you try and do them, it's like, I'd prefer to stick needles in my eyes, you know, like, because it's so much effort. And even then I give up. Like,
oh my gosh, you're talking, that's exactly what writing was like an hour ago with my son for remote learning. I felt like I was trying to stick jelly to the wall with him. There was no way he was going to do it. And it's like,
right.
Could not focus on that today. Other days he's been really good with it. And it was just like, okay, let's just move on. Let's do something you can focus on today.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And memory. I was about to say, I forgot what I was memory. For many people, there's different types of memory, but working memory. So being able to hold something in your mind while you're focusing on something else. A lot of people also see it as it's like it's difficulty filtering information. So being able to prioritize practically is very difficult. And in our brain, we have difficulty prioritizing what we should be focusing on in a moment. So that's where the regulation of attention is impacted. But one of my biggest challenges by a mile is working memory, and it's been made a lot worse by perimenopause and post-child. So different age, it can hormones have a big impact on memory. So at different ages, people have, you know, more or less memory problems. But, you know, like I left a cello on the tram when I was a kid. You know, like who does that? A child with ADHD, right? It's nobody else.
Plus all the jumpers that have been left at school. So I'm sure.
Yeah. And it's tough. Like, and there was a week before my diagnosis where I left the door open one day. I left meat in my handbag one day. I turned up 45 minutes late to a pediatrician appointment we've been waiting to for 6 months. It's so stressful and it does your head in. Meds have made a really big difference to all my symptoms. The least, the one that's benefited the least is memory, but we're still working on that. I'm working with a GP that specialises in ADHD and my gut health and all sorts of other things to improve my memory. So fun and games.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. It's really insightful, especially people who don't have ADHD, to be able to understand that, especially that part. And I know that other friends is just sending them a text reminder and saying, hey, don't forget, it's like casual close day today, so that they're reminded and
be patient.
Yes,
with people, because they may not know that they have it, right? So be patient if people are late all the time. They don't. Time blindness is another one. Be patient if people forget stuff. Don't assume if somebody doesn't remember your name that they're being a snob. Names are terrible for me. You know, all these things are part of a disability. I see ADHD as a disability with some amazing silver linings, and that doesn't mean that you can't create a good life with ADHD.
So have you got some organisational tips for people with executive functioning difficulties at all?
Absolutely. So I'll be as quick as I can. I'll share two. So the other thing I do is I pay someone in my business to meet with me 2 to 3 times a week to keep me on track. So we spend 15 minutes going through my diary and my task list so that I don't miss appointments and so that I stay on track and don't get distracted by the next interesting thing that I decide I want to work on, right? So probably $250 a week, and that comes out of my business expenses. Essential, just couldn't live without it. But the other one, around the house, my washing. So I have a full system and I love it so much. It just makes me so excited.
Share. I know there'll be so many other people listening who would love this tip.
So the darks go straight in the wash all the time. So the lights
in the washing
go in the
machine.
washing basket. They go straight in the washing machine.
I like that. Yeah.
So after Harry's bath, my shower, they go straight in the washing machine. White stay up because we don't do them as often. So, and then when I put the washing on, I put up a clothes horse. So you may not use a clothes horse. Because it's just two of us. We only use the line for towels and sheets. We use the clothes horse out on the balcony. So the clothes horse is up so that when I walk past there, I remember, the washing will be finished, and I stick it out. So object permanence, this idea that we need something to be in front of our face for us to remember it, because that's the way our brain works, right? And so we've got to work with that. I have another client who got a washing basket and stuck it upside down on a banister, right? So it doesn't matter what it is, it's got to be big, ideally, and in the way or somewhere where you walk. I also actually leave one item of clothing in the laundry on the floor so that when I walk past, I remember to put the washing on first thing in the morning as well, late at night. Because then by 9 o'clock, I remember to put it out. It's dry that day. And then when I take it out as well, I put the whites in. So that I actually, and then they stay there until it's full. So then I start on the white load. So that's a full system. And it means that your clothes aren't all really crumpled because you've left it for 5 hours before you take it out, and you can give them a good shake and put them out. And I don't know about you, but anybody I know with ADHD does not enjoy ironing. It's tedious, it's boring, it's not novel, it's annoying, and none of us are ironers. As far as I'm aware, maybe there's someone out there who gets right into it.
I don't think so. And what about socks?
That's it.
I love that.
Well,
that is fantastic.
I
But tell me
always
what
hang,
you do with socks. What is just
I
socks?
hang socks that always hang them next to each other.
Okay.
They always have to be together. I just am really into how I hang my clothing out as well, which is quite hilarious. But yeah, I don't really lose socks. I have to say, I don't really lose socks.
Oh, wow. But there is only two, but I don't
There's only two of us. There's only two of us.
And I do exactly the same technique as you, but every other client I work with, they have a box of odd socks, and there's always that box of odd socks.
Oh, I lie. There is a spot. I just lied. I didn't lie. I forgot. There is a spot that I have in my cupboard and in my son's room that I put odd socks, so that when they turn up, I know where they are.
Oh, yeah. But you wouldn't have as many. But another strategy that I started using with my son is I've got 2 socks. That's it. He has the same socks for school and the same socks for the weekend. They're all the same color and they look the same. So they don't need to actually be paired. They can just be put in the box. And
great idea.
And that's easier, because I don't think when he grows up and he leaves, he's not going to be able to be doing that. So I'm just like, as long as the socks are together, you can find them, but you don't have to actually join them together if you don't want to, because they're matching otherwise. So that's just one of the strategies I read about somewhere, and I went, I'm going to try that one to make it easier. So there's no extra colors or anything like that. It's just the one, 2.
We only have 2 actually, grey and white. White is just because they have white at school. So I wouldn't choose white otherwise. White socks for kids, right? But anyway, so the same thing. We can just match any of them up.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Those 2 tips. I'm sure that people out there will be like, that's a great idea. Just having that clothes horse there, and just the one, straight into the washing machine. It's funny. My son actually does that. He puts his clothes straight in the washing machine, not in the baskets, because I don't think he gets which is whites and which is darks, even though they've got a label there. And so he's automatically just using your strategy without even knowing it.
There you go. Mine does it too, actually, a little bit.
That's good. So it's a habit now they've got into, which is great. Okay, so thank you so much for your time. And I would love for you to share your social media or your website, so people can reach out if they'd like to hear more from you, and follow you definitely on Instagram. I think you have some great bits of information that you share as well.
Yeah, cool. So the very last thing I wanted to do is show you these earrings.
That's right.
I haven't got the right hairdo. Let me just. So the other thing is to own it. These are neurodiversity. This is the neurodiversity infinity symbol, and we love that. Like infinite, limitless is what I think of our thinking, right? It's not boxed in at all. So I just wanted to share that too. I'm really proud. Some neurodivergent people are some of the best people that I know. There's no question of that, right? And we change the world very often. So that's just my parting message. So my business is Lilo, Lilo Wellness. And yes, I have Instagram, just Lilo Wellness, and Facebook. Probably a little bit more active on Instagram, I guess. And I do have a free stress management course for parents of kids with special needs as well. So you can access that through my website, lilowellness.com.au. So that's it. And I share anecdotes. I love to write. So I'm about to open up a massive resource on my website, actually, with heaps of strategies and tips and anecdotes and practices, mindfulness practices. So check it out.
Thank you, Susie. Oh, that's wonderful. And thank you for sharing that link as well, that people can go and check out the stress management for their children as well. Thank you so much for your time. It's been so lovely, and sharing your tips as well.
Thanks for having me. I've loved it.
Thanks.